Your value is that you're able to bring yourself. You are able to tell people truths that no one else would tell leaders. I have told people some crazy things, which is actually how I ended up meeting you two.
Welcome to the Soul Secrets Podcast. We're your hosts, Kirstin and Carli, where we open up our hearts to you in hopes that you'll open yours to ours. Tell them why we're here, Carli. Oh, I'll tell you. How about inspiration, transformation, of course, self-love, and fearless expression? We're going to share stories of triumph and tragedy and everything in between, what we've learned and what we've gained, and in hopes that it'll help you along the way. Let me tell you something, y'all. We've spent a lifetime keeping it inside, and we finally realized that it's our time to shine and speak our minds. You know you're going to want to hear it. Stick around while we share our soul secrets. We see you. You're ready to trade your stress for sunsets, soul connections, nutritious meals, and time to heal. Our Soul Secrets Beach Retreat is your opportunity to leave it all behind, to laugh louder, breathe deeper, and remember who you really are. This isn't just a vacation, it's a sacred reset, a weekend of healing, clarity, and heart-opening connection. Come as you are and leave as your light. We know this feels good to you, and spots are limited, so go ahead, reserve your place now at soulsecrets.life and let the ocean remind you you're free. Welcome to the Soul Secrets Podcast. And here we are, Carli and my host, Kirstin, with a very special guest, Dr. Caryn Winters. And here we are at this podcast creating connection, bridging gaps, telling real and raw stories, and really just learning along the way who we are and what we're sharing. And so we welcome you to this episode with Dr. Caryn Winters. She is our first guest, and we couldn't be more excited.
Thanks so much for having me, y'all. Yeah, of course. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm an organizational strategist, a storyteller, and a sovereign explorer. And we can get into that later on. And I'm so honored to be your first guest. And, this is a little different and I think really special because I'm not necessarily just the first guest. I'm going to be guest hosting, right? And so I got to come up with questions to ask Carli and Kirstin in order to draw some really cool things out of them, to understand their story, their journey, a little bit better. And it's something that I've called the longing, the letting go, and the liberation. And it's not a script, okay? It's a soul map. And together we'll explore what it takes to come home to yourself, what you've had to grieve, release, and reclaim. And I'm so happy to be here today with both of you, Carli and Kirstin, two women who I've come to respect deeply.
Thank you.
So, we first came across each other via Instagram, actually. And I just thought it was so cool that there were women who were in similar generations who were doing this kind of work in Southwest Louisiana, and beyond, really. And I thought I had a lot of feelings about it. One, I wanted to play. I wanted to come play with y'all. And I also had a critique. But we'll get to that part a little bit later in the conversation.
And Caryn has a PhD in communication. So This is one reason why we thought it would be a good idea for her to interview us and really pull some things out of us so that you guys can really know who we are as peoples.
So let's get started with the longing. Right. So this is, I'm really curious about the ache that drew you inward and that made you stop and think, I need to listen to what's going on in here better and differently than maybe I ever have before.
I think for me,
But what I noticed was the patterns in my life that were continuing. I wasn't really oriented to my own personal truth yet. So the patterns continued and continued and continued. And it wasn't until I said, hey, God, is there more? I had a come to Jesus moment where something was a deal breaker in my family. I'd asked for truth for the first time. I was 41 years old, walking meditation in the woods. And I asked for truth and it came. But the thing was, it wouldn't have come unless I asked for it, unless I was willing to let everything go. The patterns were the key. The triggers were the key. But the gold is, are you really willing to let go of your entire family dynamic, your workspace, the way that you are, your personality, to experience a real deeper truth of who you truly are? And so for me, that was my first step of saying, hey, there's got to be more. Now, the path has been a lot more, strenuous and difficult. Letting go of all these things is not easy, to let go of your personality and let go of maybe your fears and things like that.
It's so hard. And it's not necessarily a destination, right? It's not just like, okay, I've let go, right? It's a continuous journey. And I think that's what you're describing. And so it's really cool to hear how you kind of first started that journey of realizing that there's some misalignment happening. Kirstin, I'm really curious to hear about you.
Well, to be honest with you, my story is a lot different than hers because I feel like at a small age, I don't know if it's that I was forced to see it in a sense. My parents divorced when I was 7. And so I think had to dig deep within myself so that I wouldn't maybe feel the trauma and the hurt. And so I decided to turn everything into beauty. Because I knew that if I tried to turn everything into, pain, it didn't feel as good. So I learned at a small age, I think, to do that. And so I was really able to go deep inside of myself and figure that out at a small age, which I'm extremely grateful for because that really has helped me through life. And so I've been turning inward for a while. But what I haven't been doing is sharing it. I have throughout my life in little ways and in quiet conversation, but not in a public way.
Why?
I've just never felt, the right moment, maybe,
Okay. I wonder, have you ever noticed that maybe you felt some discomfort around sharing parts of your story because they were less than beautiful? Perhaps.
Maybe. And also just, I'm not someone who likes to be in front of people, like I'm a little more inward. And so Carli is sort of bringing this out of me, to kind of make it public and be out there. So that part is a challenge for me. And I call it performing because I feel like even if I'm just speaking to a few people, I feel like I'm in a performance, that people are looking at me. They're watching everything I say. Is what I say makes sense and things like that. So that's the insecurity part,
Yeah.
So I'm living that and I'm trying it.
It's a journey.
It is.
It's a journey, and it's a journey to be able to bring out all of the valuable pieces of our stories, right? The things that are beautiful, but that's not all of life, right? All of life is not beautiful. And I've had the privilege of being able to hear a bit more of Kirstin's story, and there's so much wisdom. There's so much wisdom in the pain as well. And that's part of your story. And I think that anytime you have a chance to honor that, I would just invite you to during this conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think I'm really curious about what started stirring in you before you even had language for it. I know for me, I feel like I've been going through this journey with what I've been calling a midlife recalibration. And I mean, at times it did feel like a crisis, but I did not like that language, right? Now, after kind of running away from love serious relationships for the past 5 years, and randomly having this man that I've known for 2 weeks tell me that he loved me. Y'all, I have it like that. But we're not a couple. But but it brought up in me, so it made me finally confront all the things, all of these versions and stories and contracts around love that were no longer useful to me anymore. I was packing up to go to New Orleans, and I realized that I was packing stuff for him, and I was like, wait, why are you moving in? He just said he loved you. It's a feeling. Like, why are you moving in? And then I was like, okay, well, gosh, I wonder what this means now about the rest of my dating, because I've only known him for 2 weeks. And I was like, Caryn, this doesn't come with this feeling doesn't necessarily come with commitment or control. And I had to deal with my scarcity fears. I had to deal with things that came up, like extreme discomfort around when we were together, making myself small in order to maintain connection. And I felt such deep discomfort that I knew I didn't want that ever again in my life. Ever. And through this whole experience, I came to understand much more clearly what it meant to love myself after kind of working it out with chat.
Yeah.
Y'all, chat is deep.
Look, you code it.
I mean,
You code it to be as deep as you are.
it's amazing. And it says, it's reflecting me back to me. And so, yeah. And so we realized that, me and chat, we realized that what I was kind of going through is this, like, a slow, holy shift, right? And that's what started stirring in me before I had the language. But later I had this language, and it was slow because there is an urgency around it. And I wanted to be able to treat myself with compassion, to parent myself the way that I parent my child, right? It's holy, not in the religious sense, but because it's sacred and it's reverent, and a shift because, y'all, I'm not the same, and it's a journey. And so, I'm curious about the shift, the slow, holy shift that's led you to where you are now, the thing that started stirring in you before you had language for it.
Yeah. My turn. So for me, it was, like I said, these sort of things have been in my life for years. I've been thinking of these things for a long time, but it wasn't until I was around 44 that I was like, okay, maybe it's working. Maybe these things that I've been doing are working. I'm 44 and everything's working out for me. I love my life. It's beautiful. So maybe this was right. Maybe I should help other people learn to do this because, through your life, you're doing these things and they are working out. But it felt like to me, it wasn't until I was old enough to say, I have been doing this for so long. It must be right. It's funny that it took 44 years for me to say, okay, this is definitely right. But that was when I started to stop and say, okay, it's time for me to lead. It's time for me to show people what I'm doing. If I'm happy and I love my life, I want everyone else to love their life.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to bridge that gap for people to see that it's not just black or white. It's so much gray to me. There's so much in the middle that people don't look for. And I wanted to be that bridge for people so that they could see it all.
Such a beautiful example of servant leadership and what that looks like, because you're both leaders in this space, in this area, and you should be really proud of what you've been creating.
Thank you. I mean, that was what we wanted because we felt like in this area there wasn't much of it. But then again, we live in our own little circles, so it's like, is it? Are we? So to hear you say it really means a lot.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. So for me, reflection and observation have been my greatest teachers ever since I was a child. I remember observing and watching and thinking and feeling everything. And as I reflect on my childhood, I remember a lot of things. I remember trying a lot of things and doing well at them, but never finishing them to the degree of a fire in my own belly. My parents did the best that they could. They overcame their trials and tribulations. And so as the firstborn of 4 kids, 3 brothers, special needs brother, I wanted to experience sex for the first time and love for the first time. So I did, and I got pregnant in like 5 seconds. So in the culture of the South, you get pregnant, you better get married, you better fix it, et cetera, et cetera. And so I spent a lifetime trying to absolve myself as a 20-year-old with a child and figuring out if I could have enough education, if I could be the best housewife, if I could be the best, most perfectionist mother on the planet, that would absolve that sin in which I was told. And so for 22 years, I carried a rock uphill, not knowing that the castle was built on unworthiness. I didn't know that. I just thought I was trying to fix something. And so after 22 years, when I began to heal, I started healing all by myself for 4 years. And so that one day I was 41 years old was the first day I had ever asked for truth in my life. And that's when I mentioned I took a walking meditation and was just praying and said, hey, God, I need some truth right now in my marriage and my life. And in 48 hours, I had dreams and visions and all these things waiting for me to choose. But when you let go of a life of 22 years, a castle that you built, and you pull the pin, you crumble, you collapse, you have no idea who you are. This is the point where people want to leave the earth, where their life can't handle. But I stayed long enough in the unknown and the pain that I was able to rebuild through music. I met my first producer. I've written an 8-song album that has healed my heart because I thought, I'm not letting 22 years go down the toilet without saying something about it, without making beauty so that I feel good. And so these 8 songs have meant decades of my life and feel like they are honoring enough. And so I've got song number 6 coming out. And maybe my ex-husband will hear it one day on the radio and know how I feel.
Right.
Or whatever.
But
you know what I mean? It's like, I didn't work this much as a slave to myself to not realize something and share, like the beauty that I started finding within music. It has just given me the highest level of bliss, orgasmic love for myself. Glee. Because I had pain for so many years underneath that expectation. And so that's the reason I'm here, is because I love coming out of the closet really slowly with good friends, with people that have hearts that love people. And in this process has been such a burning away and a death to self over and over and over and over.
A constant becoming.
Constant.
Yeah. I love that. There's so much richness in what you've both said. I think that, well, first, y'all check out her music. It's dope. One. But also this castle of unworthiness. And that's, I've done so much work around with my therapist, my beautiful, beautiful therapist. And Tamara Griffin at the Well. Really amazing. And before her, Catherine Elliott, they do, some empathetic therapy. And so much of it is based on, working to find inner freedom and to understand deeply that your worth is a given, right? That our worth is a given, that our worth is not dependent on what we do or don't do. Our worth is as simple as the fact that we breathe, right? And I remember even as a professor at UL, I would tell my students, you have the right not to meet my expectations. You have the right to fail this course, to do whatever you want, and you're still a good person. You're still a good person. And that was such a hard thing for me to grasp, because I was like, well, says who? Like, who says I'm worthy? And I remember having this conversation with my brother, and he was like, that's the thing you say. And I was like, that doesn't seem like enough. But I got there. Again, it's a journey. And it's tough. Well, I love this part. I feel like I really deeply understand the longing. And I'm also curious about the letting go. Well, thank you. This has been a really great conversation, y'all. So we talked about the longing, right? That ache that called you inward. But let's talk about letting go. And because sometimes there's a cost to coming home to yourself, right? And I wonder, what have you grieved that no one else could see?
So, I mean, I've grieved the loss of friend groups and people that taught me and loved me at each level.
Mm.
And I want to keep everyone with me the whole way. And it just does not continue to be in alignment no matter what I think. And that's been really painful because I've had to let go and hold on to the belief that I am more loving and more beautiful and more kind than before. And let that be enough and sit in it and breathe with it. So that's been one thing. And just also watching my family with their eyes getting bigger going, what are you doing? And what is this? And it's like, forget it. I'm going to Burning Man. Oh, have a song out. Here's this, here's that. And just kind of blowing the proverbial boxes of like everyone's expectation based on who I am and what the culture and society says that I can or can't do. It's been a very lonely road in this path. Very lonely road. With the exception of Kirstin.
I love that. And I think that seeing how lonely this path can be, I imagine that that's been a driving force in you all innovating and creating this space, right?
I mean, I kind of felt like if we build it, they will come.
And here we are.
So it's kind of the same for me, grieving the loss of some friends and things that I just don't think understood where I was moving towards or maybe who I really was. I had something and they didn't know going back. But grieving just the fact that, the feeling lonely, I think is the hardest part for me. Feeling that nobody really understands me. I guess I've always felt different because, like I said, I started at such a young age feeling this way and like seeing beauty in all things and being able to never really feel like a victim per se, I never felt like the situation was bad. I always felt like there was a reason for it happening. And so I never really felt like anyone understood that as well. So it's almost like not really having anyone to talk to because I felt like they didn't understand that because they always wanted a reason to feel bad. And I won't give it to them.
Right.
And I think in friendships, people kind of just want you to say, yeah, you're right. That's bad, And so maybe Carli says I'm a truth bomb. So maybe people don't really like the truth, but Carli stuck by me. All the truth, and I just don't know any other way to give it. Because I feel like if I'm going to be your friend, I want to be truthful. I want to help you. And so, yeah.
So it sounds like you became a survivor, right? Not a victim at a very young age. And you found ways to survive, right? By not just focusing on the things that were bad, but how you can create beauty from that. And it sounds like you had to really lean into your faith over the years to make that happen. And of course, we all have our family stuff. We all have our stuff. I think that a lot of families see sometimes, with older generations, it's sometimes just hard to relate, It's hard to relate to like this way that we are living our lives out loud and that we're finding language that maybe they never had access to, right? As they were growing up.
I call it closing a door on their consciousness because I'll take care of a lot of patients visiting them in their home and I can see when they stop believing about a certain thing. As soon as you say, I'm too old, in reference to anything that you're thinking about, it closes the door on that growth and that possibility. So if you're growing and you're realizing, wait a second, like Eckhart Tolle says, they cannot live outside of the consciousness that they be. you is the consciousness that you are. And they can either mesh with it and flow with it and grow, or not. And so I kind of think about that, like with people and where I'm going and understanding, like, if this is going to be a good fit, because it's really not a fit. It's more of a jellyfish, like an expansion.
Right. Well, and I love that. And a lot of thinkers, kind of talk about this idea. So even when I was a professor, I would always show my students this episode of the Diane Rehm show. Do you remember that on NPR? Diane Rehm. I think she had the same voice thing that like RFK Jr. has, right? So that's why she sounded like that. But she's brilliant, and she invited one of the original mindfulness researchers from Harvard, Ellen Langer, to talk about mindfulness and what it really means to be present. And she talked about curiosity. And the importance of curiosity, and that being key to mindfulness, because we always hear people say that they get tired of like their 20-year relationships, but we never hear people say that they're like so bored of their 20-year-old child. Right? Because we're looking at it differently, right? We're with the kid. More grace, but more curiosity, and we are expecting change. We're not engaging in all of these static evaluations where we just see somebody the same way forever and ever. And I'm really curious. For me, that was a turning point. I think kind of realizing how important curiosity is. Curiosity about my own feelings, my own sadness, my own pain, and without judging it, giving myself grace and just being able to look at it with curiosity, and how powerful that is. And so I wonder, when we talk about turning points and the truth, when the truth stopped whispering and started demanding, what was the first boundary you set that changed everything for you? Do you want to start?
Just, I guess, saying this is just the next step in my life that I want, that I've never done. So it was like, I'm going to do it. It's time to do it. I've never done it, and this is the time.
What is it?
Just speaking and being
seen.
Being seen.
Being seen.
Being seen in front of this camera here.
And beheld.
That's key.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Hold.
We're just hanging out. We're just hanging out here beholding you, girl. Yeah.
I'm in the middle. I got two pillows right here. I got two.
We see you. You're ready to trade your stress for sunsets, soul connections, nutritious meals, and time to heal. Our Soul Secrets Beach Retreat is your opportunity to leave it all behind, to laugh louder, breathe deeper, and remember who you really are. This isn't just a vacation, it's a sacred reset, a weekend of healing, clarity, and heart-opening connection. Come as you are and leave as your light. We know this feels good to you, and spots are limited, so go ahead, reserve your place now at soulsecrets.life, and let the ocean remind you you're free.
What about you, Carly? And actually, maybe a different question for you. When did your truth become just impossible to ignore?
It's really interesting. It was impossible to ignore because I kept wanting to know if each person was my savior. And the limitations allowed me to go. It was interesting because where they brought me, I was a yes, but I had way more to go than where I was brought. And I realized when they had a limitation and I had to contract back into as far as they could take me, truth was like, oh no, sister. You're not going to go halfway in this song. You're not going to go halfway in your dreams. You're not going to go halfway. And so that is how that taught me through frustration also, and wanting to be so detail oriented and put myself in a box, because I guess I've been hiding there for so many years that as I was brought out of these boxes, I could not stuff myself back in. You know?
Yeah.
So
I love that. You figured out that you were your own savior. What a challenge. What a challenge. You have both been on these amazing journeys and are still on them, right? And one thing that I remember, thinking as I was watching, your other episodes is like, okay, now how do we do this? How? What are the steps, right? So I guess, I remember, I described that discomfort of, there's discomfort that we should listen to because it pushes us to kind of understand something. We know that change comes with discomfort. There's discomfort that we want to lean into, but there's some discomfort that's just like, oh, like I don't want that anymore. Bye. Do not want any of that. And I felt it in my body. The body knows, right? What did truth feel like for you? What did it feel like? What did it sound like? And where in your body do you feel the truth most clearly?
I mean, for me, it would be in my heart.
Yeah. Like literally, like in your chest.
Literally, yes.
Yeah.
Physically, it's this like longing to feel like match how you feel. I don't know if it's match, but to know that like how you feel is also relatable, in a sense that
say more about that.
You're not alone,
Yeah.
That, to meet other people who feel the same way, and to know I'm a person that I've always liked to help people, so that's why I say I like to bridge this gap. So it's to know that other people feel the same way and then to conversate with them and bring them closer to themselves, brings me closer to myself. And that's why I love doing things like this. It's because I feel like if we can all work on that a little more, then I think everybody will feel more satisfied and fulfilled, in their hearts. So for me, yes, it's like a literal aching in my heart that just, like the hippies used to say, we just want peace and love and happiness.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why can't we just have it? It's just, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
That still in today's world that humans have a hard time connecting to each other. It breaks my heart.
Same. Gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
Deep in my stomach. In my chest and everywhere. That's where my body holds it, y'all. Carli, where does your body feel the truth most clearly?
I always feel it in my heart and especially my throat.
She does.
And I consider truth like a plunger. Like it has its own frequency, its own vibration of existence. And so what's not in alignment with that, I will feel it in so many places, especially in my throat. And it's either because I'm not speaking my truth or putting myself out there like my soul is calling. And so that's why truth can be really painful if you don't listen to it. So truth is pain. Truth is bliss. Truth is fear on the other side of that door.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been many things.
I had to take a deep breath because I realized that I feel it in my throat too. Like there have been times where I was like, my throat is closing. I should go get an endoscopy and figure out what's going on. And they were like, there's nothing wrong with your throat, ma'am. You're stressed. Oh, boy. So
the body does physically do things that's why stress is so bad for us.
It keeps score, right? There's a book that's named The Body Keeps Score. And I think that that's such an important part of the work that you all do when you have retreats, right? Like bringing people into the present, into their bodies, because that's where they're going to find truth. And I wonder, how do you now recognize safety or yes in your nervous system?
For me, it's just, as nerve-wracking as this is for me,
Yeah.
to like be here on camera and trying to to speak words that I'm not good at, it still feels good to know that I'm doing it. You know,
You're also good at it.
thank you.
You're welcome.
But it's hard for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel easy to me. And so just knowing that I'm doing it is good.
Girl, you make it look easy.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
just so y'all know, it is not easy for me. Just so they know. That's me.
I love that. I love that truth. Like, it's pretty, but like, it's not, that's not the whole story.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Look
truth.
like I know what I'm doing, even though I don't.
She knows what she's doing.
That.
But yeah. You got like a whole hype squad right here.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, there's 2, 3 behind the camera.
We got this whole thing.
mhm.
And lots of space here.
I love that. Yeah, and I think I'm starting to recognize safety in my nervous system. The yes a lot more clearly because I know what the no feels like. The no does not feel good. It feels horrible. You know, the thing that I realize in this midlife recalibration is that the thing that I want most of all is peace.
Yeah.
You know,
Harmony.
yeah. And we're going to get there. I'm probably going to have to go to one of y'all's retreats.
Yes.
To do some work. But yeah, this is good. And I think this is important information, right, for your viewers, because like where is it that they can look inside themselves and trust their bodies and listen to their bodies with curiosity, right? Without judgment, giving themselves grace, parenting and reparenting themselves as gently as they would their own children, right? Being able to give that love to oneself, I mean, I think is amazing. And it's a journey that is worth going on. Yeah.
And I feel like maybe we could touch on grace a little more. Like what it really means to give yourself grace.
Tell us.
No, y'all tell me. Bring it up. No, I'm kidding.
Well, your definition is different, though, in the way that you see it. So,
Yeah. I mean, for me, giving yourself grace would be anytime you hear what I call your ego speaking and saying something negative, is counteracting that really quickly, as quickly as you can. I mean, 15 seconds and you've got to start thinking another thought, a positive thought, because you can't give yourself grace if your ego is constantly chiming in and telling you you're not worthy, you're not worthy. I mean, giving yourself grace is learning and understanding that you are a beautiful, sovereign being and reminding yourself of that. But you can't get to that point until you stop the negative thoughts. So we have to give that ego another job, let it do something else, ask it to please thank it for being there, trying to protect you, because I think that's all the ego is trying to do. It's just trying to protect you. It just wants a job. So give it another job, let it go, and then think your positive thoughts, and eventually you'll get used to doing that. You'll get better at it.
Yeah,
but you'll be able to
something
sit
to add
in
to
that.
Yeah, go ahead.
one thing I want to add to it is that, the ego does exist, but what I've learned is that the ego are unhealed versions of ourselves. So like shadow aspects of self that feel abandoned, let go, and it wants attention. So for me, it's been such a navigation of the feeling process through my truth and letting myself feel the emotion that wants to come through. So it's like asking the question, like even to the ego, are you wanting to feel right now? Like, do you need a moment? And like stepping aside and going, okay, there's some grief coming up. Let's sit with that grief and let it move through however it needs to be, whether it's dancing or whatever it is, journaling until your higher mind knows that, okay, we've processed this. It's been 22 years. I've grieved the loss of my family while I was in the marriage and outside of the marriage. So I know that there's a part of me whose grief muscle is powerful and strong. But I get to put boundaries on that too and say, hey, I know we've grieved it. We've given this enough time. Now what? So I feel like mastering yourself and then putting that into place when you know that you've expressed it enough or you feel like I am complete. I feel like that would be like a really good combination.
Yeah, I love this conversation. And this reminds me a lot of what in my therapy practice we call inner figures. And we talk about the inner critic, right? These parts of ourselves that are often hurt, right? And we name them, we put them in chairs, and we ask, what do you need? What do you need? And so it's so tough to walk the line sometimes, even with the inner critic, right? The liar, the inner critic, right? But is still trying to protect us, right? So how do you walk that line of being curious, compassionate with yourself, giving yourself grace, right? But also not letting that part of you drive, not letting that part of you be in the executive, and being able to come back to yourself, to come back to your executive, because like we're in charge, right? We should be driving, not the hurt 8-year-old version of myself, not the hurt, 21-year-old version of myself, but this version of myself that is becoming. And I think that, that sovereign truth that one is able to reach through that curiosity and through the listening and giving ourselves grace is so powerful, to understand that you don't have to perform, that you can just come as you are, right? I think is such a powerful thing. And performance has been such a big part of my life. I think as a professional, I started off as a young professor at UL. I was 30 when I got my PhD from Penn State. And then at 40, I transitioned to, maybe like 39, I transitioned to a brand new career in tech. After 2 years of being there, I found myself in leadership. And I was like, what? Like, what is happening? What is happening? And, and I remember asking mentors, like, I want to talk like the consultants do. I want to learn the language. And they said, no. They said, no, we don't. What you bring, your value is that you're able to bring yourself. You are able to tell people truths that no one else would tell leaders. I have told people some crazy things, which is actually how I ended up meeting you two. Because, right? Because, as cool and amazing as I thought this was, I remember talking to my old roommate, Jolene, who's this amazing warrior queen. She was visiting back home, and I said, hey, check these ladies out and this cool stuff that they're doing. I don't know that any of this says to me as a progressive Black woman from the South that, like, I'm welcome here in this space. And she said, why don't you just give him that feedback? And I was like, I'm a little impulsive. I was like, okay. And send. And so that started this amazing conversation. And I think that what's amazing about these women is that, when we spoke, they didn't say, oh, well, what do you mean? They didn't approach. They didn't. Okay, no, that's real. That's real. Kirstin did not approach me saying, what you mean? Right. She approached me with curiosity. And one thing, I used to give I developed these trainings like a long time ago about like calling in and, and calling out. And so what I wanted to do is call you both into a conversation. Now, I'm not saying that calling out is bad, right? It has its place, but here I wanted to call you in, and they accepted the invitation, which I think is incredibly powerful. And they said, you all said, I don't know what we don't know. Right. So what is it? What is it? Like, tell me about your experience, with this. And the way that you approached it was amazing.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was this acknowledgement. I don't know everything, but I want to. But I'm curious.
Right. Yeah.
You approached it with curiosity. Carly did eventually. You were a little standoffish at first. You were like, "What do you want out of this?"
My people pleaser, or just it's like that thing where it's that thing I'm renovating inside. Is just wanting people to feel the love that I am. I know it starts with me feeling it first, but
yeah,
it comes with the territory.
I mean, I was all right with it because it helped me because I had to actually answer the question, what do I want out of this? Why am I having these conversations and offering myself up to It was because I wanted to play and be friends.
Yeah. Well, same here. It's kind of like my little soft Kirstin heart was like, oh, I hurt someone. It's like I didn't include someone. Carly always says like
always
she's
gonna lead you.
I'm the no man left behind kind of person.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wait, I left someone behind? This person doesn't feel comfortable. But at the same time, I'm like, but I don't know how I left you behind because I don't think that way. It wasn't something I was thinking or doing on purpose. Obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm sure you knew that as well.
Yeah.
But coming from a person who's not, I'm not trying to do that. I'm like, well, then I don't know how to do it.
Right.
Because I thought I was including everywhere. I feel like I am, but I mean, obviously we only know what we know, like you said. So I was like, okay, then teach me.
Yeah.
Teach me how to do it. And through our conversation with Caryn, one of the things that she had mentioned was in the podcast, she wasn't really exactly sure who we were yet. I mean, we're only a few episodes in, so I'm hoping, later on more of us comes out, but we were talking and just in a conversation and she's like, well, what about this? Well, what about this? And, who are you? Tell us, and I said, look, how about this? We haven't had any guests on yet. Why don't you come be the first guest and just pull it all out of us because you're, an expert at communication. I'm really good at communicating.
Hey, thanks.
And so I think it was perfect that, we could have you on and talk about it.
But the most interesting thing to me is that I had no idea about your resume or your communications or anything like that. So I thought it was so perfect and so amazing to have such a star in that area come in and open up a pathway that we could talk. I mean, we couldn't have dialed the number and found one ourselves. Hey, help us with our communication early in the game.
Yeah.
Help us, be more inclusive, welcoming, and all the things. And the fact that, you come and she turns it into gold, well, that's being standoffish, but still, it's still a beautiful thing. It's just quite amazing. But you had to follow your question, even with your friend, and you did it. And look what that little tiny nudge was unfolded into. Imagine the other nudges.
I have so many nudges, y'all. I have so many nudges, but let's get into it. One of the things that I always teach people, because I've done so much work in inclusion and diversity and things like that, but the thing that I think surprises most people is that I make them celebrate getting it wrong. And I failed. I literally make them do that. Because part of this journey is knowing that we're going to get it wrong sometimes, right? And so I wonder, what have you had to unlearn to truly hold space across racial or cultural lines?
For me, one of the things that, I remember being a small child and there were things said in my family, about other cultures and other races. And I felt like I always thought, oh, that's so wrong. I mean, I would even step up and say it, and then I got some backlash for that, from some family members. And I always feel like I've always tried my best, like I told you, to include everyone, to see everybody as equals and stuff like that. So I felt like I did that. But one thing that I've learned as I've been older is about privilege and what privilege actually is. And that privilege doesn't mean you were born into money. I mean, it can. It can mean
Sure.
But it's more about the opportunities you were born into
Mm-hmm.
and the love you had. And to me, it's not always cultural. It can be, but I mean, there are people within the same race, the same culture that could be born into a family completely different than mine. So we didn't always have money,
Mm-hmm.
but I had love and support.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at people on the street and I think to myself, I think a lot of what they suffer from is a lack of love and support.
Mm-hmm.
Just having that place to know that you can come back to. And sort of like when I try and I go out on a limb to do things, because I really have had the love and support that made me feel like I could. But I also know that I have someone to go back to if I fail.
Mm-hmm.
And that is huge.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it could be love and support, right? And I love that you introduced the scary word of privilege, right? Because people often misunderstand it, right? As like, I didn't grow up with privilege. What are you talking about? But we all have experiences with privilege, right? I was born into a family where I would be third generation college educated. I had nothing to do with that. I was just born. That's a point of privilege for me, you know? I didn't ask for it. And we all have experiences with oppression, right? We all do. We can talk to men and I would love when this would come up when, men would talk about, their experiences of feeling confined into certain boxes of what masculinity should and should not look like. But I would also have women, in my classes talk about their experiences of having to walk, to places together, to clubs and bars, and the fear that they feel. And my male students were like, I never thought about that. Just like my female students were like, I never thought about that. Right. But it's about this consideration, right? I know that, I am most likely like the first Black person who has ever lived on my street because there was a history of redlining that existed through the 90s, in Iberia Parish. And so while there were some families who were able to buy and have access or even come back from war and use their GI Bill to buy houses in certain areas of town, Black folks weren't, right? And so, that generational legacy is something that we also have to consider, and that can be so challenging. And just as a shout out, there's really cool work that's being done over at the Shadows on the Tesh, which holds the Iberia African American Historical Society Center for research. And it's something that I feel really close to. My aunt is Dr. Phoebe Hayes, and she is deeply involved. She's a founder of this organization, and it's all about telling stories in a way that are inclusive. Their motto is telling the true and inclusive story of Iberia Parish, right? And these stories are so important, and I just applaud you for inviting me on to share my unique perspective and include some of my stories, as part of this podcast. And this,
Stopping at the place of, oh, I don't feel comfortable, and
yeah. Well, no, and honestly, it wasn't that I didn't feel comfortable. I was just like, what is it? I was like, I don't see any Black people on your page. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm not sure. Well, and so when they were like, okay, well, how could we be more inclusive? I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe we could feature some, maybe like some Black influencers, or just other, diverse range of influencers. Like, for example, there's Dr. Valen Jordan, who's here in Lafayette, who does yoga for social justice. There's even nationally, we have Trisha Hersey, whose work I love, who talks about the nap ministry and how rest is revolutionary. Dr. Raquel Martin, PhD, she's everything. She is a licensed clinical psychologist, professor, and liberation psychologist, podcast host, mother, etc. And she talks so much about mental health through education. And another local person who I love, and we went to school together. She graduated with my brother. She is responsible for Fightonville Fresh Market, so approaching wellness from literally thinking about food, and co-founder of CPR to Go. So just wanted to highlight some of those names locally and nationally, because I think that when we have spaces like these, we can use them to expand. And so just wanted to get back to this final part then. So we've talked about truth across difference. I also want to note that we can carry that love and someone's identity at the same time, right? That it may not melt away, that it becomes part of it. The way that they love could be culturally informed, right? But I hear what you're saying, and I guess what I'm trying to do is make sure that we differentiate between, being able to hold someone's kind of truth and true and inclusive story. Yeah. Without accidentally leaning too hard into a colorblind ideology, right? It's tough. It's not easy.
Yeah. I like to do that, especially when I feel judgment from the other side, I don't like to say yes. I don't know. It's almost like sharing your truth, but I don't want to stay in the pain with you. It's like I want to be your doula or help or be that place, right? Mm-hmm. But I also don't want to stay stuck in that pain space for an extended period of time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like navigating judgments with people and friends and relationships and things like that. Mm-hmm.
I guess how do we
And
see
also
it?
What I can do is overlove as well, where, like you said, it blinds a lot of things and it helps protect, I think, just experiencing more pain, because I feel like I've had a life of so much pain. Mm-hmm. It's like I don't really want to keep cultivating more pain in a way. I don't know.
One thing that is, I know, an important part of the reconciliation process when we talk about racial reconciliation is being able to hear other people's experiences. And so what I would challenge you to think about is, how can I listen and understand without taking on the pain? Because what I hear is a resistance to being in that space with them. And here's the thing, in reality, you can't, because it's not your experience, right? But how can we, I think it's a challenge to think about how we can hold other people's experiences without sitting in the pain, and be intentional about looking for the lesson in their stories, right? So we don't unintentionally minimize someone else's pain and someone else's story, because y'all, there's a lot out there. And this is something I'm always still learning myself, because this is why I would not be a good therapist. Because those boundaries are really hard to draw.
Some can be organized boundaries and others are situational. You have no control over them. So you have to be the wise one and figure out how to navigate in the situation.
Yeah. And I ask people, questions that, again, it comes back to curiosity, right? And how we can be curious about the full spectrum of people's experiences. Because there's a lot of, I mean, my aunt is like a public historian. There's a lot of pain. I'm like, oh, what horror story of of living in the Jim Crow South are you going to tell us today, Aunt Phoebe? And we're like, we can't hear this first thing in the morning. Phoebes, come on. But at the same time, it happened, right? And my cousin and I, we always laugh because we've had to draw some boundaries around that while also being able to deal with not just the pain, but the immense amount of joy there is and beauty and being Black and being who we are, right? And being who you are. Like there's so much joy as well. And that's for me, that's part of my story, right? And
I love being able to bridge the gap. So like if I'm curious for who I am and you're curious as who you are about who I am and who, we should be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Discuss it. That's the only way we're going to actually, I'll never understand exactly who you are and where you came from, but I'll never understand where Carli exactly. We live a totally different, we're different people. We live different lives, but if we can all talk about it more.
Yeah. But, and I have to say that it's a skill. Having those conversations involves skill, openness, and some shared understandings. And this is work that I do. If you're interested in getting in touch with me about doing some of that work, please reach out. And I'm sure my information will be on the episode information. Yeah. But before we end, we have to get to the last part, which is the liberation, right? The longing, the letting go, and the liberation. This reclaiming of joy, of rest, this reclaiming of your voice. I'm looking at I'm looking at you because I feel like that this is the journey that you're going through right now, and you're moving through it really beautifully. Yeah. And so I guess before we wrap up, I'm really curious. What's one truth you're honoring today that would have scared you a year ago?
One truth I'm honoring today is to be on the receiving end of deep, hard, good, expansive questions from a Black woman who represents all kinds of cultures and all kinds of excellence and all kinds of things, which was great that I didn't see a resume. you know what I mean? Like, see, I saw the resume and that's what I'm afraid of.
Oh, it's not your skin color.
Oh gosh. It's like there's a fear around like, I'm not going to be able to be who somebody wants me to be. And that's the thing I'm working out also. And just being able to be me, that's something that is a truth that I'm uncovering, is just the ability to just be me and what I know.
Isn't that gorgeous? That's beautiful. It really is. I always tell people are like, what's your superpower? And I was like, I think my superpower is giving people a safe space to be who they are, exactly where they are, right? In their process.
Well, at least for this conversation.
Well, I mean, the thing is that like, number one, I'm really good at this, okay? But also I think it's just so important to be open to hearing people's stories and to seeing their truths. Y'all, we come with so many records that are just playing in our head that have never been questioned, right? And how cool is it to be able to stop and look at a record differently and be like, is this still useful?
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe that's more complicated than that. What's one truth that you're honoring today that would have scared you a year ago?
Being here and doing this,
Yeah.
and just speaking and just getting out of my shell in that way, being in front of people, being in the public, and Carli had to kind of push me into it. I don't mind telling, speaking and things like that, but I don't love being in front of the camera. So that's tough for me. I'm doing it. So.
You are. You are. And I want to honor you because you are. Girl, you doing it. You doing it.
Yeah.
Well, if I've said anything today that lands, I hope it's this, that You don't have to rush your healing, and you don't have to be palatable to be worthy, right? Our worth is a given. You don't have to be someone else to come home to yourself. A slow, holy shift is available to all of us, and it starts with truth, and it honors every part of who we've had to be and who we choose to become. So thank you so much for sharing with me a bit more of your becoming and where each of you are on your journeys. And I hold that as sacred. Your slow, holy shifts. Sometimes I think just about calling it just holy shift. Like, is it like I kept the slow because I needed that part of it, because otherwise I would just be saying holy shift.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, thank you again for being,
of course,
for being so open and honest, and
of course
sharing with us everything you have to offer.
I can't wait
and
to
sharing with
keep
the audience.
Playing.
Yeah. And we'll definitely link below where they can get in touch with you if they want to speak with you, your social media, if you want to let them know what your social media is.
Yeah. At Caryn Winters. It's Caryn. It's like crayon, but not.
Okay.
Yeah. And also if y'all have like some healed friends, brothers, etc. in their 40s, holler. No,
Do this
JK.
exist?
I don't know.
Carly's looking for the same. So
yeah.
So if you know two,
if they haven't been to therapy, it's not gonna work.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, everyone, for joining at Soul Secrets Podcast here at the Soul Secrets Podcast. We wanted to also remind you that we have our up-and-coming women's retreat in Galveston, Texas, September 19th to the 22nd. Information will be linked as well. Have a wonderful day.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
We see you. You're ready to trade your stress for sunsets, soul connections, nutritious meals, and time